The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip is finally official. I've had some early hands-on time with it, and in this video, we're going to be comparing it to Samsung's first generation foldable, the Samsung Galaxy Fold. What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and let's break down all of the key differences SuperSaf style. Right, so initially, I think it's important to understand that yes, these two are very different devices. The Samsung Galaxy Fold is more of a tablet device, which you fold into the size of a smartphone. The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip is more of a smartphone-sized device that you fold into half. But nevertheless, this is the second generation foldable from Samsung, and it's going to be interesting to see what improvements and what changes Samsung has adopted and which one of these foldables is a better option for you. So initially, in terms of the overall look and design, they do look like they're from the same family. Of course, Samsung has adopted the metal frame with the glass panels, but I'd say the biggest physical change in terms of the materials is with the foldable display. Samsung has somehow managed to fold glass. That's insane. Like, I don't know how they've done it and what kind of wizardry they've used, but the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip actually has an ultra thin glass display which folds. Now this should make it a lot more durable compared to the plastic display of the Samsung Galaxy Fold. On top of that, Samsung have also improved the hinge mechanism. So although it looks pretty similar in the way that the Samsung Galaxy Fold does, it actually has layers of fibers in the gap which prevent from dust getting in. Now you may remember that the initial version of the Fold, a lot of reviewers had dust trapped inside which then would push out against the screen. So hopefully this will prevent this altogether. I've had my Samsung Galaxy Fold for a few months now and I've been using it very regularly, and it's actually been pretty fine. I've not had any dust trapped in, and because this is the improved version, it's not really had an issue. But I have noticed a bit of a flex in the hinge. Now this is very minor and it still works absolutely fine. So it'll be interesting to see how this improved hinge on the Z Flip lasts over time. But generally speaking, the Z Flip is more of a durable device compared to the Samsung Galaxy Fold because it is the second generation product. Another thing about the hinge on the Z Flip is that it is a flexible hinge, so you can kind of have it open halfway if you want. This is something that you can't really do with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. If you try to open it halfway, it's just going to kind of like flop because it doesn't have that mechanism. So the hinge improvement on the Z Flip does seem to be something quite significant. Now speaking of the displays, when the devices are folded out on the Z Flip, we have around a 6.7 inch display. On the Samsung Galaxy Fold, we have around a 7.3 inch display. But the important thing to note here is that the aspect ratios are completely different. We've got a very tall aspect ratio, 21.9 by 9 on the Z Flip. On the Samsung Galaxy Fold, it's more of a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. So even though it might seem like you're getting very similar screen sizes or not too much of a difference, you do get a lot more screen real estate on the Samsung Galaxy Fold. And when it comes to things like gaming and viewing content, you are going to get more of an immersive experience, shall we say, on the Samsung Galaxy Fold. One thing to bear in mind, however, is that you do have a cutout on the Samsung Galaxy Fold towards the side, whereas you have a very clean center punch out on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. So when it does come to screen to body ratio, you are getting more screen to body ratio on the Z Flip, although you are getting more screen real estate on the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, although both have dynamic AMOLED technology, you do get a higher resolution on the Z Flip compared to the Samsung Galaxy Fold. You're getting a higher PPI, and this is going to mean that details are generally going to seem sharper compared to what you've got here on the Fold. Now let's talk a little bit about this crease. So the crease is definitely visible on both the Samsung Galaxy Fold as well as the Z Flip. Personally speaking, after using the Fold for quite some time, it's something that you do get used to and you kind of learn to ignore. And especially when you've got content on the screen, it's something that kind of, fades away quite easily. Yes, you do see it when the screen is off, but when if you've got something bright in the background, shall we say, then it's much less noticeable, and it's something that I think, generally speaking, most people will look past after using the devices for some time. Now, when the devices are closed, both of them do have a cover display, an outer display, but the Samsung Galaxy Fold does have a more usable outer display. It's actually around 4.6 inches, and you can do a lot of things on it, although typing is not the best experience, personally speaking. But if you want to, go through your phone book, make a quick phone call, if you want to just, scroll through social media quickly without having to open the display, you can do that here on the Fold. On the Z Flip, the cover display is very much a preview display. Yes, you're going to be able to see things like notification icons. You're going to be able to see who's calling you. You can just swipe, but that's pretty much all the interaction that you can have with that smaller display. So that is one advantage, we say, that we've got here on the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, looking at the sizes of the devices, of course, the Samsung Galaxy Fold is a larger device. And although that might be an advantage when you're viewing content, when you're carrying this around, it still does fit in your pockets, but it's quite heavy. It's almost 100 grams heavier compared to the Z Flip. The Z Flip, although it's the same thickness when you have it folded, it does take up a lot less space compared to the Fold. And because it's so much lighter, it's definitely a lot more of a compact and more comfortable device to carry around. Now let's talk a little bit about the cameras. So the Samsung Galaxy Fold actually has 6 cameras, which do seem like a bit of overkill. The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip has 3 cameras. So let's talk about the rear-facing cameras initially. The Samsung Galaxy Fold, we've got pretty much the same camera setup as we had on the Samsung Galaxy S10. So we've got a 12 megapixel primary camera. It has a variable aperture, switches between f1.5 and f2.4 depending on the lighting you're seeing. You've got an ultra-wide camera at 16 megapixels, and then you've got a telephoto camera, which is going to give you 2 times optical zoom. Now the Z Flip has 2 rear-facing cameras. You've got a primary 12 megapixel camera as well. This has a fixed aperture at f1.8. And then we have an ultra-wide camera. Now this is at 12 megapixels, but it actually has larger pixel sizes. So this means it should perform better in lower light situations. So although you are losing a bit of resolution, 12 megapixels is still pretty good. And then for the front-facing cameras, the Samsung Galaxy Fold actually has 3 front-facing cameras in total. You've got one on the cover display, so this is mainly if you want to quickly take a selfie and you don't want to open up the Fold, so this is 10 megapixels. But on the inside, you once again have the same 10 megapixel camera, but it's also accompanied by a depth camera, which does a really good job in my experience when it comes to live focus portrait mode. Having that additional depth information is definitely quite useful. Now the Z Flip has the single front-facing 10 megapixel camera, and that is in the punch out. In terms of specifications, it's very similar to what we've got here on the Fold, minus that depth sensor. Now one of the things that you can do on the Z Flip is use the front cover display as a bit of a viewfinder to enable you to use the rear-facing cameras as front-facing cameras. Now this isn't ideal because that display is very, very small, but if you do manage to use it, then you're going to get much better quality selfies from the Z Flip. Now I'm gonna have to spend some more time with the Z Flip to see how good the cameras are. However, for video from the rear-facing cameras, you can do 4K at up to 60 frames a second on both the Fold as well as the Z Flip. But for the front-facing cameras on the Fold, this is something that I noticed, you can only do up to 30 frames a second at 4K. This is on the Fold. On the Z Flip, you can do 4K up to 60 frames a second, which is quite interesting. So this seems, maybe because of the new hardware, it's capable of recording the higher frame rates, but that is something that I didn't notice, and it's an advantage that you have on the Z Flip. Now let's talk a little bit about the internals. So here's where the Z Flip does get a bit of an advantage, and that's because we've got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset, as opposed to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 or the Exynos 9820, depending on your region when it comes to the Fold. So Samsung have decided to consistently go with the 855 Plus, which is a more superior chipset. However, the Samsung Galaxy Fold does have more RAM, so you've got 12 gigabytes of RAM, and that really does go towards the multitasking because you've got more screen real estate. You're probably going to be doing more multi-window tasks on the Fold compared to the Z Flip. The Samsung Galaxy Fold also has double the storage, so you've got 512 gigabytes of storage versus the 256 gigabytes that you get on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. And neither of these have a micro SD card, so you can't expand the storage. However, both of these do have UFS 3.0 storage, which is going to be very, very fast. Now, looking at the software, the Z Flip out of the box is going to be coming with Android 10. The Samsung Galaxy Fold, however, my version anyway, is still on Android Pie, so I've not had the update as yet. Both of these do have One UI, but you have the newer version of One UI on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. So for software, you do get this advantage here. And also we've got some new features as well that Samsung have baked into the Z Flip. One of these is taking advantage of that hinge. So because you can place the hinge as you would like on the Z Flip, you can actually have what Samsung are calling a flex mode. Now, this is basically going to allow you to do things like watch a video on the top half of the screen, but then scroll through comments on the bottom half of the screen. Now, not all apps are going to be supported with this, but your default apps such as the gallery, again, you're going to be able to see the pictures on the top half of the display where you can kind of scroll through the bottom half. So this is quite an interesting implementation. And when it comes to security, both devices do have a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which works really well. But the Z Flip does have a button for the fingerprint scanner. So it combines the fingerprint scanner and the power button into one, which is a lot more useful compared to the Fold, which kind of just has a capacitive area. It's not a button. And then you do have a separate power button, which initially was a little bit confusing. It is something that you do get used to eventually, but it's definitely a welcome improvement on the Z Flip to combine those together into one button. Now, speaking of audio, neither of these have a 3.5mm jack. The Samsung Galaxy Fold does have dual stereo speakers, and they sound really, really good, especially when you're watching movies or playing games. Having that immersive experience is something that's a big plus here on the Samsung Galaxy Fold. On the Z Flip, you only have the single bottom firing speaker. Now, this is of course because of the way the device is designed. So I kind of understand why they've gone with a single bottom firing speaker, but the advantage for speakers definitely goes to the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, looking at the batteries, the Samsung Galaxy Fold actually has a pretty large battery. You get a slightly smaller battery if you go for the 5G variant, but it has given me no problems lasting the day. It's got very, very good battery life. Sometimes I was finishing with around 40% battery life, and for somebody like me who's a heavy user, that's not something that I see all the time. The Z Flip actually has a respectable 3300 mAh battery considering its folding form factor. That is a pretty decent size, comparing it to something like the Motorola Razr, which has a similar form factor. That has a much smaller battery. So I'm pretty confident that the Z Flip is also going to have good battery life, but of course this is something that I'm going to have to test out day to day after getting hold of the retail version. Now, both devices also support fast charging at 15 watts. You've got wireless charging as well as wireless PowerShare. So this is reverse wireless charging. It's interesting that Samsung have included this also on a foldable device. It's something that you might not use all the time, but when it comes to charging things like your Galaxy Buds, it can be a very, very useful thing. Now, one advantage that the Samsung Galaxy Fold does have is that it's available in a 5G version. The Z Flip is only going to be coming in 4G. Now, this may not even matter to you because you may be in an area that doesn't really support 5G. But if you are somebody who's on the 5G train, then this is an advantage that the Samsung Galaxy Fold has. Now, finally, let's look at the price. The Z Flip is coming in quite a bit cheaper. It's coming in at around £1,300, which is I'd say around almost a third cheaper compared to the Samsung Galaxy Fold. I'm sure that the Samsung Galaxy Fold price will be coming down soon, but currently going around and looking at prices online, this is the price that you're paying now. Having said that, you do get 5G at this price point. You get the higher storage, the more RAM, and you also get Galaxy Buds included out of the box with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. So if you are to go and buy these right now, yes, these are a few extra things that you are getting. But the Z Flip definitely coming in with a punch at £1,300 or around $1,380. Actually makes it cheaper than the Motorola Razr, and it's offering, in my opinion, a lot more compared to the Razr as well, which is very, very interesting. So if you ask me which one of these should you go for, Well, remember that these are two very different devices. The Z Flip is more of an improved device for sure. And it comes with the glass screen, the improved hinge, the improved specifications. It's a much more compact form factor, but it is a smartphone that folds in half. This is something that Mark has mentioned. Smartphones already fit in your pocket, even if they are 6.9 inches. They comfortably fit in most pockets. Whereas something like the Fold is very different. It gives you a much more immersive experience because of the more screen real estate that you have on here. And it does come with certain advantages that you have. Maybe it might be worth waiting until this drops more in price, or maybe when Samsung has the Samsung Galaxy Fold 2, which we haven't really heard many rumors about as yet. And hopefully these improvements, such as that glass display, the improved hinge, will come to the second version of the Samsung Galaxy Fold. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Definitely drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. There's going to be lots more coverage with the Z Flip, with the Samsung Galaxy S20s, all of that good stuff here on the channel. If you don't want to miss any of that, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time. Man, it's 2 a.m. I still gotta edit this.